Are we rolling now?
Ready?
Sure.
Rolling.
Nice.
Ending on a 5 chords hard.
I was waiting for the last one.
I can finish it off.
There you go. Okay.
I'm Jason Verlinde from the Fretboard Journal, sitting here with 3 very influential people in the world of guitars, Jim D'Addario, and from Taylor Guitars, Andy Powers and Bob Taylor. We've got a lot of stuff to cover, a lot of interesting things to talk about, a really exciting new partnership between D'Addario and Taylor. I have all sorts of questions for you guys. But first off, this is a very close-knit industry. I think you guys have known each other for a long time, right?
There's a couple people in my life that I feel like I've known for a long time, but I don't remember meeting them. I don't remember like when we became friends. But Jim and I have always had a common love for industrializing things, you know, making machines, making high quality stuff, and highly respectful of Jim's abilities.
Wow, same for me. I mean, I actually, you know, I have this feeling that there's lots of people in my life that I probably knew in another life. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because they're so familiar when you meet them, you kind of know them right away. And that both of you guys are in that category for me. I feel like, you know, we're really kind of on the same wavelength. Yeah. We run our businesses the same way.
It's interesting for me because I never lived in a world that didn't include Taylor or D'Addario, right?
Sure. But what's really kind of remarkable is even though my family's been making strings for centuries in Italy and then here, we never put the D'Addario name on the brand. And we introduced the first D'Addario branded strings in August '74, and Taylor was formed in October '74. So it'll be, next year will be both of our 50th anniversaries.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Right.
That is really cool. You guys are both about to celebrate your 50th anniversary. You've come a long way. What were those earliest days like for you guys, Jim?
When we started our company over again in 1973, I was really in the back making stuff. Yeah. And being a tinkerer, I never really was, you know, I was young and I didn't have that much experience with machinery on a factory floor, but I loved it right away. But I also realized this is really bad machinery. There's a lot of things I could make better here, right? And I gotta say, it was hard work. We worked, you know, 12, 13-hour days for years, but it was a lot of fun. There was no lack of energy anywhere. And throughout my family and then the staff we started with, it was exciting, you know, and we just kept developing new technologies to make the product more consistent.
And 50 years ago, Bob, paint the picture. What was going on over in Lemon Grove?
Well, you know, I made 3 guitars and a banjo in high school because I wanted a guitar, and I could make things, right? I had some great experiences in middle school and high school with some shop teachers that were excellent. I wanted a guitar. I was interested in playing. I couldn't afford one. I was like, well, I can make one. I had a great teacher in high school who, his gift to me is he let me work. Because a lot of times someone won't let you do something. A parent won't let you, a teacher won't let you, but my parents and my teachers, they let me. This kid wants to make a guitar, we'll say yes. Because they could easily say no.
I know.
You know, and stop you from doing something. So I'm forever, ever grateful and feel blessed that I had adults in my life that let me go, right? And the next thing you know, I graduated from high school and I had a bench there. Kurt Listug was there, kind of. It was our hippie days, you know, and next thing you know, a year later, we're teamed up. And those early days were a struggle for us. But we had a good dealer. Well, Kurt went out and he drove to LA and he came back and Fred Wallachy, Westwood Music in downtown LA, became a dealer of ours. And he's the one who provided guitars and banjos and Fender basses to the whole Herb Alpert, David Geffen music scene that flowed down Laurel Canyon and into the world, right?
Yeah.
And so he was there, and the next thing you know, we had some people that were famous, you know, real life people that bought guitars from Fred, because he would just like, here, take this guitar, come back every week, give me a few dollars till it's paid off. And all of those guys just revered that man because he helped them. You know, people ask me, like, what's the secret of Taylor Guitars? And I'll say, the partnership between Bob Taylor and Kurt Listug, that's the secret, you know? That's what made our company.
It's funny you mentioned shop, you know, because not many schools have metal shop, wood shop, or print shop. My school had all three, right? And I was totally fascinated with print shop and metal and metalworking shop. I remember the first time I drilled a hole in a chunk of aluminum and tapped the hole. It was like, oh, this is how they do that. You know, like the revelation.
I'll tell you what pleases me at Taylor right now is that our chief guitar designer is the president and CEO. And you can't look around and see that in a large manufacturer anymore. So for Andy to have a relationship with D'Addario for all the things that he's thinking about, because frankly, I was a pretty good guitar maker. I wasn't too bad, and I got some good guitars made in my lifetime. Andy's much better than I am. And so he thinks about how a string vibrates at the same time he's making a guitar, whereas I didn't. Andy's V-class bracing, which we use on guitars, he sort of...
I got skunked. That's what happened.
Well, part of it, he sussed that out by standing on the bluffs looking at waves, because if you can watch an ocean wave come in and out, waves are waves.
Yeah.
It's like now this thing's hitting a dividing point, and I'm seeing what's happened, and he's studied waves just by watching the ocean.
Yeah, you can watch something go slow and go, oh, well, I guess that's what's happening when it goes fast. When it goes slow, I can see it, and when it goes fast, I can hear it, and if it goes really fast, I can sense it as heat. You know, there's all kinds of things like that.
You know, and so it's probably nice for you to talk to him about string design.
Well, when we first met, it was so rewarding to go, wow, I found a kindred spirit to go, I don't want to not be making sawdust. I don't want to not be in the factory. I don't want to not be at a workbench. I don't want to shirk that work off and say, yeah, somebody else take care of this so I can sit at a desk with a spreadsheet. That's not what I wake up for in the morning. I know I'm guilty.
No, not really.
Andy, you are a luthier, a builder. You're also a world-class player. What are you looking for in strings?
I want something that's consistent, really. So you think of a set of strings, and it's not one single unified thing. You've got, for a guitar, you've got 6 of these, and they're all different. And you need the exact same character from one to the next. Otherwise, you ruin everything about the guitar. Every instrument has this unique character. It's got this unique sound, this thing that it does. But you can completely ruin it with one bad string out of a set of 6 that had 5 good ones, and this one just ruins your experience. And so more than anything, what I would always look for was, are the strings alike? Do they behave the same kind of way? Do they feel like a cohesive thing?
We often talk about guitars. Rarely do we get to hear about the science behind strings, how they work, what keeps you up at night. Like, can you give us the 101 on guitar strings?
Wow, that's a complex question. First of all, you'd have to tell me, is it classic guitar strings or acoustic or electric, you know? But, you know, making a string, most of the things that I focused on was just eliminating all the variation, the variables. Just like take them out of the process completely, and you'll end up with a much better product. So a lot of times I would be just laying in bed thinking of how that machine could be better, or how you know, the material we're getting is maybe not the right temper, or it's, you know, or it's varying. But those kind of things where you're eliminating the variables make your strings better, you know, than they were before, and that's what we strive to do. We're just always looking for ways to make it better.
I have a friend that's a good player, and he says, you know, if you take an instrument and you just remove the mistakes, you can end up with a good instrument, right? And so a lot of what I hear Jim talking about is removing mistakes. You know, not always is it an addition of something good. Sometimes it's a subtraction of the things that are wrong. And to do that, it can be really hard because you've got to design new equipment. You have to do something yourself that somebody else won't or cannot do for you. You know, you can start out your business by buying this from someone, buy that from somebody, modifying it or sorting it, and then one day you have to take responsibility for the whole ball of wax. It's like we have to make our own whatever.
The new XS string we have now we're really, really proud of, but making that technology to do that was really complex. And one of the things that did keep me up at night for a lot of nights, we had to basically develop our own film that we would treat, impregnate, and then slit, put on spools. We had to make special winding machines to wind that ribbon, that very thin ribbon. It's 1/30th the thickness of saran wrap, which is pretty thin to start with, right? So
Imagine how tough that thing is to hold. I mean, a piece of saran wrap over leftover salad or something.
Yeah, and it took us 4.5 years to develop that. And there were a couple of times where we were at dead ends and we thought, oh boy, we just don't know enough. And whenever I feel like we don't know enough, I try to look for other resources that have this experience. And we eventually put together a great team and put 6 out of 9 of our mechanical engineers on that project for almost 2 years without stopping, without doing much else. And came up with what I think is like the best coated string on the market now, because it's long lasting and you can't tell it's coated with the sound. I mean, it's almost identical to an uncoated string. And it's one of the products we make that I'm most proud of, actually.
You know, and a lot of people probably listening to this, and maybe some of them don't know what 3/1000ths of an inch is or 3/10 or this type of thing. And to paint a mental picture, imagine taking a soap bubble and cutting it into a long ribbon and winding it on something, and then making a machine, and you could pick the end of the thing and go put it on. You know,
Right.
now, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but
Not by much.
But not by much. Not by much. And that's what they had to figure out how to do to coat these strings.
Yeah.
And they're good. They're good.
The XS coated strings play the same way every time I buy them. And that's what we like to do, right? We like our customers to have a consistent product.
You know, you learn about processes, how things are made after the fact. And the first couple of versions, I mean, we've known each other for a long time. I try things, go, this is cool, sorry, slide that one back, you know, nope. And then you guys sent out a set, didn't have any label, and he just goes, you should try this. I think we're onto something. Went, well, yeah, I think you are.
Yeah,
What
well,
do you
when
know?
your
You got-
email about the testing the sample
Right.
went around the office,
Right.
there was a bit of celebrating.
Yeah, it's like, I hear something that's really good, and the string moves a little different. It moves more the way that it wants to, or that it should, in order to make an accurate note. That's a big step. That was a big step for me. I went, yeah, it just feels more musical. It's
Can we
just
hear you play a little bit?
Sure. I take requests.
I'll be here all week.
I know you're there. I can hear you leaving.
Nice.
It's a beautiful feeling, really consistent, great response. It's got like all the metrics that I could say that make something musical. There's dynamic range, the pitch accuracy is great, the feel is great, the sustain is great. They work really well. It's a really neat thing. And then, you know, you learn how it gets made and it starts to make sense, right? You go, well, this string gets wound here and then 20 feet away, you're finishing the process. Okay, well, that's a lot different than having a UPS truck in between. You watch the way coating goes on, you go, oh, well, you're treating it like another layer of wire and just winding the thing on.
It's
of
more
course,
flexible.
it's going to behave the way a string naturally wants to behave. It's going to be consistent. It's going to have a much more uniform thing.
You know, we're happy with the XS string. It's really solid now. And there will be other products that get introduced with this technology, and that technology will morph like all other technologies we worked on and get better, you know.
I imagine building as many guitars as you guys do, you guys learn a lot about strings from production. Like what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, I could just parrot what Andy said. Consistency makes a huge difference. Yeah. And when you do build a lot of guitars, the relationship that you have with the company that's making your strings is really important too. So there's the thing, and then there's the person who makes and gives you that thing. And when those two things are good, you know, it's good.
It's the guitar maker in us that wants to be standing alongside the string maker in them.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what it is. That's really what we see here is going, look, I have a lifetime of instrument making behind me. Bob does. And I still have a lifetime of instrument making ahead of me. And these guys have a lifetime of string making behind them and a lifetime of string making ahead of them. Mm-hmm. Why would I not want to join with that?
Yeah.
Right?
String making isn't an also-ran for them. It's just
right. That's a lifestyle. It's a passion. It's been really fun over the last number of years to come to you guys with different ideas and go, you know, I really want a bass. I want to make a bass, but I want the strings to be like 10 inches shorter than what a bass should be. I know. It wasn't the easiest thing.
Defying the laws of physics.
Oh man, that was
but
bad.
you did it.
But we did
know,
it. I love the fact that you were willing to hear me out and go, you want to do what? And put a phosphor bronze wrap wire around a nylon string guitar core. Oh gosh, okay. You know what? But I love the thing that it exists.
Yeah. I get a kick out of watching YouTube because Andy's a thinker. He thinks about how things work. He knows he can't make it. He talks to you about an idea. You add your expertise and then willing to do it. We couldn't have made the GS Mini bass if you hadn't made the string.
Right. The process of making is what leads to the process of inventing.
Sure.
Right.
What I love is your high level of excitement about what it is that you're making.
Right.
Nothing in there
a lot
was
of passion
boring.
going on. I think I drive my guys crazy because as soon as I see a new good idea working on one thing, my mind is very good at connecting it to another thing.
Right.
You know, which is one of the main reasons why I liked acquiring other product brands that supply musicians with different products other than just guitar strings or guitar accessories, because we've learned so much from making those different products that we're always stealing something from one and putting it in another.
Totally. It's like there was a psychologist back in the 50s, 60s, Mendoff, and there was this push to try and define what the essence of creativity was. And for him, it was the associative memory. And so for him, he defined it as, well, it's the creation of a relationship between two previously unrelated ideas. You know, that's about as close as I could get, saying that's what creativity is. You're taking an idea and going, oh, well, that can also go over here. Let me see if there's a way to get it from here to there.
Yep. I think we spend a good part of our time being cheerleaders, you know, and convincing people to keep going, that this can happen. We can make this work. So many times we come up with an idea too early, we try it, it gets poo-pooed, and like 10 years later, you could bring back that idea now that you have a different expertise and
Man, you do that too? Like,
yeah, and say, well, you know, we tried that, but it didn't work. And sometimes people, you know, some of our staff will say, well, we tried that, it didn't work.
That's right.
Yeah, but you tried it on a different day.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, when the weather was different.
Let's
or
try.
Yeah, it's like I've described it this way, where I have like this mental bookshelf
Yeah.
of all these different ideas. You go, well, I tried this thing, and oh, that was an idea. I'm going to just put it on the shelf. And then every couple of years, you pull that, blow the dust off, and go, nah, not quite yet. Nah. And then once in a while, you sort of take a couple of them off at the right time. You go, you know, if I took this and this and this and combined them with this new thing that I just tripped over, I just discovered that when I XYZ, whatever it is, and I took this idea, now it's perfect. Now it's complete. It's a whole.
or now it's a product somebody wants and
this,
needs.
it's
Yeah.
the right thing for the right people at the
Right.
right time.
Right time.
The most important thing is that when we decide to make a product, that we're absolutely sure we're solving a valuable problem, something that has value, and somebody will pay money to get that solution, right? So vertical integration has been a discovery for me.
Yeah.
Every time we vertically integrate some other piece of our operation, whether it's raw material or printing or whatever, we suddenly realize, oh, there's another benefit that we figured,
Right.
you know. We constantly spend 50 to 70% of our profit on capital expense projects to make better products, better machinery, better everything, right? And that has kind of protected us and made us more competitive all the time because we're always advancing our state of the art for all the stuff we make here. And, you know, we make 800,000 strings a day. That's a lot of strings, right? You wouldn't be able to make those in America.
Say that again.
Yeah, 800,000 strings a day.
I'm doing a little quick math.
Yeah.
Converting that
That's
to
single strings,
miles.
right?
I know single strings. You know, even the caveat is impressive.
So, you know, we have 6,000 plus items, and the average sale price is $8.
I know it's
So we have to have dedicated high-speed solutions
Yeah.
in order to make enough of those products at the right cost factor. That's the mentality, because you know what? You can do it here. You just need to figure out how to do it very efficiently. You guys have exactly the same mentality, so I think that's why, you know, I enjoy going to your factory all the time and seeing some of the new things you do, because you're always coming up with a way of making that, at whatever that part is or the assembly, so consistent.
exactly the same for us. I always wanted to be a factory. I love factories. I wanted to industrialize guitar making, and so I started working on that. And it really is just this balance, but this idea of you have to sacrifice quality to get quantity. At least with guitars, it was a ripe field of being able to get them both at the same time. You know, if you can make a machine to bend your sides in a minute, and they're better sides than the ones that take you a half an hour over a pipe, well, you achieve both at the same time. And so by industrializing those things and just going for that quality all the time, some of the guitars that we make right now, you wouldn't have been able to make them 20 years ago. They would be, you could say, well, you could make it by hand, but you couldn't. They're too complex to make by hand, right? You're not going to hand wind that soap bubble onto a string. You know, you need machines to do that kind of thing.
Right.
But when your manufacturing capabilities become better and better, then all of a sudden you can go down a really inspired design path, because I know I can make it, I know I can improve that, we could at least do it now, and then that'll lead us to even better manufacturing.
Yeah, that's
And
absolutely right.
it seems funny to mix this word manufacturing with the thing called a guitar, because people talk about their guitar
You look at
with
this thing
human
and you go,
characteristics.
oh,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
it changes. It's like an extension of my own hands. It's like an extension of my body. It's an extension of my emotions and my thoughts. And
It's a friend.
yeah,
It's an enemy.
It's a
You know?
confidant. It's like all these different things, and takes on this life of its own. And so I think that's a very interesting thing. Yeah, we manufacture them.
we're talking about guitars, but we're talking about manufacturing strings with precise stuff and making guitars, manufacturing them, industrializing the process. I thought it was good to stop and explain for a minute, because we come at this as, we have to make this guitar that improves your life, your musical life, you know, your emotional life. You have to make a string that does the exact same thing so people have a great experience with it. But we do it through our own education, our skill level, our hopes and dreams of what we can invent. And
well, it's the problem with inventors. We think everything we do is really important. So, you know, and the fact is, it's not everything's bottled beer, right?
How important is sustainability?
Very important to us. I mean, it's very important to me and my family that we do no harm to the planet, or we minimize the harm we're doing as we manufacture the things we provide consumers to use. And that's not always easy to do, but that's really important to us, and I know it's important to you guys. And those kinds of symbiotic synergies really kind of make the partnership really great.
I mean, the first tenet of sustainability, and of course, it's a journey, it's not a destination, you know, is don't waste things.
We've been talking about how much waste we throw away when we string a guitar.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, with your social responsibility and ours, it drives me crazy. We make a string 39 inches long, and almost everybody needs really 34 inches.
Right.
You know, and for those odd coupled guitars, we make the strings gigantically longer. So we're going to work together to make the strings we provide them to put on their guitars close to the precise length of what they really need, so we save that material.
I want shorter strings for the GS Mini. We need a GS Mini seat. Why should we throw away this much string every time a GS Mini?
So I was restringing my grandson's GS Mini that I bought for him last year, and I'm trimming the strings and I'm throwing away this much, and that's what started the conversation here. It's like, well, there are a lot of smaller guitars out there. We should really be zoned in on, you know, saving that cost, and also the recycling and it's hard to recycle a string. We have a recycling program. We fund that. It costs us hundreds of thousands of dollars a year with TerraCycle to give people the capability of recycling strings. But it's not easy because the materials are all assembled together, right? And you can't separate them. You know, here you got a piece of core wire with winding on it. It's not a simple thing to recycle.
It's not a simple thing to take apart.
No.
And, you know, that's just a huge waste, and waste is awful.
It's a sin.
It's a sin.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
not good.
Yeah. So we got to fix that. Here's a curious dilemma. Now you're making strings that last longer. You're going to sell less strings. You make a drum head that lasts longer. You're going to sell less drum heads, right? And so just think about being in that dilemma of making a consumable product like you make. It's very, very honorable to take the path that you do. It's like, well, we make something that lasts longer. We're going to sell less of them. Yeah, you can make it cost more, but then that's a long road for it to be costing more.
I tell everybody here that's not an argument I want to hear.
Right.
You know, to stop progress because you might not make as much money, because somebody else will do it. And then you'll make no money.
And then you'll make
You know what I mean?
So that's a long-term outlook.
Yeah, you have to look at the long-term outlook, and there are going to be some things that, there might be a circumstance where less strings are bought.
You never do yourself harm by making a better product in the long run. If you can have a business ethos and habits that put that quality product out, you're not going to harm yourself, because you're going to end up making more of something else and maybe less of this, and it's going to grow. And I mean, D'Addario is a huge company now. It's not shrinking because you're doing a good job. It's growing because you're doing a good job.
We do a lot of things to make our operations, more sustainable. So a while back, we farmed 500 acres of land in south of France and in Argentina to grow Arundo Donex, which is the cane for a reed. So, and they were fertilizing and irrigating and fertilizing and irrigating and cutting in. And then they're burning the scrap because, you cut a pole and the top is no good and a lot of poles are just no good. And they were burning it. And I said, why are we burning that? Why aren't we grinding that up, putting it back in the field? as compost. So we then converted all of the fields to completely organic growing principles, and we got certified organic, and now we've got the factory certified organic. And right now in Europe, we launched at the end of last year a part of our brand as organic, and eventually we're going to migrate all of it, all the regions and all of the reeds to be completely organic. Well, what's the benefit? Now you could tell a parent, your kid is putting this in his mouth, and there's no chemistry involved. There's no fumigation for insects. There's no, there's side benefits to that one thing that got you started on the idea. Some other side benefits get.
And the world needs people that are farming to build soil, not destroy it.
Yeah.
Right.
All of that's really, it's all really important. That's not a little deal, that's a big deal,
Yeah.
what you did.
I think those are the things that socially responsible companies have to do.
Bob, you've planted a tree or two too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
We've been planting trees, and trees that are specific to us with the Ebony Project, the koa planting.
Where do you plant the koa?
In Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have.
That's the best place it grows, right?
We have huge. We actually have a big operation there, and we have figured out with our partners at Pacific Rim Tonewoods, who you know quite well. Steve McMinn's brilliant. They supply our spruce and our maple, and they cut the koa that we use. But we've formed a partnership together, and so our first efforts were finding big landowners that have koa, and it hasn't been cut for a long time. We call some of those trees standing mulch. And if you don't, because they'll rot.
Oh, they're
fall
rotting,
over,
yeah.
And so you see a big tree and you cut into it and it's just
Nothing
rotted
there,
inside. And there was too much koa cut, then not enough koa cut, and the world swings back and forth
Balances.
and can't find that happy medium. So we built a business model where we say, okay, we'll take this 1,200 acres of yours. We're working on 5,500 acres now. We're going for a 25-year lease on this is what we're doing. And we can identify the koa trees that we should leave standing, the ones that we cut, and then rather than paying them for the money, the value of that tree goes into an escrow account. Then that money is used by us to do all the restoration of that land. And then we leave it in really great shape. And then we also bought almost 600 acres that we're restoring to a koa forest. And so.
Do your competitors do that too?
No.
Nobody else does it?
Not that I'm aware of. And then we have this ebony mill in Cameroon, and I was sitting down talking to suppliers. How's it going, how's it going, how's it going? Well, it's kind of tough, sir, because only 1 out of 10 trees is black. And I'm like, what? And yeah, we have to cut them down. And
See, I thought ebony was black.
yeah, so ebony's a lot of it's striped, and they're like, well, what do you do with the stuff that's colored? And they say, well, we just leave it behind because. And I go, well, not anymore. And they said, well, sir, nobody will buy it. And I go, well, now they will, because I'm deciding that now they will.
Right.
I hope you like, ebony with streaks in it, because that's what you're getting.
Yeah, so maybe you could convince my drumming customers to accept a streak on a drumstick.
Yeah.
Because we sort out perfectly good dowels and waste them because they want a perfectly clear white stick.
Sometimes you just got to walk out on the balcony like the Pope and say, this is what it's going to be. And people will accept it. There's a little bit of pushback, but, a lot of people at Taylor, especially in customer service, I said, just tell them, do you want Bob to call you? You don't want Bob to call you. And we tell them the story. And you can change.
What trends are you guys seeing that make you optimistic about the future of guitars?
The average age of a guitar player is not getting older. What that says to me is that there are people who are always interested in picking the instrument up and learning it and making a life with it, or keeping it as a companion to their life. I think that's really interesting. I mean, you see the rise of the YouTube musician. You go, really? What kind of outlet is this? But yet it is a thing. It's a thing.
And the YouTube teacher.
Yeah.
And so young people are playing music that there's 20-somethings playing music using guitar that a 60-something or a 70-something can listen to, you know?
Yeah.
And all you got to do is find it. So it's
Right. There's a lot of neat music being made.
To me, I think that our big opportunity area as a market for guitar is to get females to embrace it more, you know?
I experienced something at a Nashville NAMM show 8 years ago, something like that, and I noticed what I was seeing, and I said, we're seeing a moment in history right here. And what it was a bunch of girls ended up in our booth, and some girl was carrying around a fiddle, and there was about 6 or 7 of them. They started talking, a couple of them knew each other. Next thing you know, they were sitting around in a circle. Every one of them had a guitar, and this one girl had a fiddle, and they started singing Taylor Swift songs. They knew just
lyric.
like we can all play the intro to Take It Easy or a John Fogerty song. So, and I said, for the first time, young girls have a repertoire that they hear
Of
on the
their own.
radio that they can sing. They know every push, they know every lick, they know every vocal thing, and girls were left out of that forever because it was dudes writing songs that were on the radio and dudes playing them. So I can get together with my friends and we can start with Neil Young and we can go until we reached 45 and quit listening to music every day because we had kids and bills and that kind of stuff. But they're able to do that, and there's more female performers that are writing music that girls are learning how to play. When you think about learning how to play guitar and you want to play that song, you'll learn it in spite of strings that are hard to push down, in spite of not having a teacher, in spite of, you'll just learn it, you know? And so that was an exciting moment for me. I thought, if they have a repertoire that they can play, they'll use it to play the guitar. Yeah.
I know we got to wrap this up very soon. While I have 3 innovators sitting here in front of me, I've got to hit you up for some business advice. What's been the secret to your success?
Well, I have to say my secret to success is me and Kurt as a partnership. The other guitar companies I know that are of my age, they would either be working in the factory or working to sell, or back to the factory and working to sell. And they go like, where can I get a guy like Kurt? I go, those things just happen. You can't make them happen, you know.
Right.
And then our success now is really finding Andy. Andy's like, you know, I like to say, you need 1 or 2 miracles in your life. He's a miracle, and I really feel like that's a huge secret.
Thank you.
I learned early that I accidentally created a sound that some people liked, because it was a different sound than they were used to. But I made guitars that were easy to play, and then I used to do these things with dealers. They'd come in, and this was when we'd have these big 3-day things with dealers coming out. We'd bring 40 of them out at a time, and I'd give them a tour, and I'd said, if I asked you to raise your hand if you think Taylor makes the best sounding guitars, you see everybody getting nervous, and I go, I'll bet you no more than 40% of you would raise your hand. And they go, well, we're surprised you know that, you know? And I go, well, the sound is subjective. If your hand comes up and I make a guitar so that your hand comes up, yours might go down. I can't win the sound game. But raise your hand if you think we make the easiest playing guitar or the most consistent guitar that comes into your store. So I spent most of my career, I had a sound, people liked it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I can't fix that because it's the voice. You know, do you like Neil Young's voice? You do or you don't, you know. Josh Groban, do you like it or do you not like it? There's not like the best singer in the world, right? But to focus my energy on solving the mechanical problems that make a guitar easy to play and reliable when they come into a store, and a guitar that doesn't need setup as soon as it hits was something I could do. But Andy knows more about sound than me, so he's taking what I did, redoing it, adding his stuff to it, and the sound is getting better.
And it's
too.
perfect timing because structurally you've figured out processes to make a mechanically sound assembly all the time.
That's right.
Right? Now it's a matter of just tweaking the design to get some different sounds.
And you know, I think we're the only company in existence that can make his designs. Other people wouldn't be interested. It's too hard to get there. It's difficult. It's not. It's the things that he wants to do aren't easy to make, and you have and then we have to industrialize those processes. Yeah.
Right. And so I guess as a kind of as a follow-up to that, I'm privileged to stand on the shoulders of giants. We know that phrase, and so I've been privileged to go, well, I can partner with Kurt and I can partner with Bob and take the things that I know how to do and combine it with the things that they know how to do. I've been privileged to meet folks like Jim and go, what do you learn what I can, and that's a great thing. Like that was actually one of the reasons that Bob and I first agreed to work together,
And the nice little sidecar to this is I'm half Taylor. I'm half Lewis and half Taylor, and he's half Taylor and half Powers. My middle
name is Taylor actually. So it was a family name.
His mom is a Taylor.
Can't make this stuff up. Every one of those guys was an industrialist, inventor.
What about you, Jim? What's the secret to your success?
I would have to say curiosity and a kind of persistence. I don't like to give up on things, particularly if I'm passionate about it. And if I think we've got a good idea and it's not working out, I kind of stick to it until we get it to work. So I think that kind of mentality or culture is kind of ingrained in our business. Curiosity is the first important value for our company. And I think that's really kind of made us what we are.
Boy, that's really good, Jim.
Yeah.
I'm going to adopt that. Yeah.
And you know what? From my perspective, it shows.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's nice of you to say.
Yeah, definitely.
It shows.
Definitely.
Gentlemen, it's been so inspiring talking to all three of you, and I'm really excited for the next chapter of Taylor and Excess Strings and where it's all going to go.
Well, thanks.
It's inspiring to see people who are interested and engaged in what they're doing and doing a good job of it.
Yeah, we got a great team here, very engaged. They're driven to get things done.
Yeah.
There's something to that New York minute,
Yeah, there's something to that.
All right.
Thanks.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much.